Hey guys, it's the Problem Horse Journey. I have tees and 9-year-old Hancock gelding. So I'm working on come to the fence right off the bat. We've done move off the hand and prepare him and everything from the ground first. Now this is not the first time he's had come to the fence. He's had it a few times. It's a first time for me. So he's shown me some of his evasion. He has a little bit of fear. And when you get this situation where they've been taught before but they don't want to come, now the teaching is not really something you got to address. It's motivation. So that's where I'm adding a little bit of pressure, and then I get him to come right up there. And then when I go to get on him, I'm adding some pressure here, right? I mean, I put my foot back there. So obviously nobody's done that with him yet, the other apprentices. It's just something that I do all the time. So once I found that to be the button, I keep pushing that button, and you can see it takes him further. Like he decides that he doesn't want to from fear. So what he tries to do when he's in a fearful state is pull through a restraint pressure, right? So I'm talking him through that constantly. You'll see me get harder. So I went to two hands and pulled him a little bit harder right there. I'm tapping him a little harder. So I pull a little harder again and get him to come over there, and it's him changing. If you're not ready for that restraint pressure evasion, you will do one of two things. You will pull too hard and he'll win and you'll make it worse, or you won't do anything at all, right? And you won't really make it any worse, but you will definitely not make it any better, right? So he has that evasion going forward, and you'll see when it comes out again when I'm riding him. And if you're not continuously chipping away at that, it gets to be a bigger and bigger evasion till it's you're out somewhere in the flats when he really does it, and you go for a ride. So I find that I can spot that stuff early, and I'm really blessed to have learned that. And I put a lot of faith in that, looking for that and finding it, because you have to look for it and be aware of it. But if you got too many things on your mind, back in the day when I had all that knowledge of training horses and bits and pieces from every trainer, I never even wasn't have the ability to read a horse, and B, I had so many fixes. I'd try one and it wasn't the right application for the actual resistance I was in. So that's where I'm so thankful today, is because I can pinpoint exactly what it is at all times. It's not a mystery. It just presents itself so clear. And I hope that you guys seen that there, that he went from fear to, fear was the initial motivator, and that's why I keep working on desensitizing to get rid of that initial trigger. And then as soon as he would be in that fearful state is when he would kind of pull through a restraint pressure. So that's the first time I picked up on him. You've seen multiple videos of this, and Alex has already been on him, as I'd said in other videos there. He's already been on him one time. This is my first ride, so he didn't have to move very many times before he got off the pressure there. And I'm just having a little conversation about staying there off the contact for 4 seconds. And because he moved his feet the last time, I need to do it again. I never want to switch sides and go to the other side until he waits on the prep, and I can pull him around there without finding him. Like I didn't feel nothing but the halter shank that time. He stayed 4 seconds off the pull, and that's when I will switch sides. And if I do that daily, I really talk him into being soft. Look at him want to come on his own. I talk him into being soft, but it's through motivation and teaching. Like, he doesn't want to move his feet, so he gives it to me right away. And that's why I don't use the lateral flexion exercise that you see so many people do. They just flex them 100 times, and then you're just by golly. Like, you keep doing it until he's soft, but there's no motivation when he's not, other than just doing it again and again and again. So right now he's way better on his right, and that's uncommon, as you heard me talk about in other videos. Usually they're a little stiffer on the right, but he's better on the right, and you'll see as we move forward. So he kind of walked off on his own right there, so I just bend him and send him. So I never want to pull the rein first. I put the leg on him. Okay, so the correction for a horse walking off is not picking up on the reins and stopping him. And if that worked, everybody would have success at it, but I've never seen anybody have success at that. They always end up holding their horse. So the actual correction for a horse that walks off, whether you're on the ground or in the saddle, is push them. And once you got them moving and they're following a feel, have them stop from the command that came on that pushed them, right? So what I did right there is I was doing two things. I was pushing him and desensitizing him, because when I moved my leg, I felt him be a little bit anxious, so I'm desensitizing. I was fanning him with my legs, and now I'm using a stick. But he felt the right side of my leg on him that was moving him, and then he felt that leg soften, and that's what he stopped from. Okay, so now I'm going to pick up the rein, and I'm going to give him a prep, and then actually use my leg to send him and go forward. So I release right there. So I release my leg when you see me drop the hand. And then I leave him alone until he comes around in a circle. Because I don't want to really pick up on him too quick right there, because I just taught him for the first time to move forward off two legs. And then I'm just asking him to go forward again, and then let him go when he goes towards the rail. And then I only pick up on him when he tries to go to the left. So you can see on the first ride, I'm already starting to get specific about where we go. Right there, you've seen him kind of tense up and get tight. So I didn't just circle him and slow him down and stop him and carry on. I'm pushing him, right? And anytime they spook, I need to be driving them. I can't just shut them down, because most people think that they need to shut them down, and it's the opposite. It's the same psychology behind pushing them when they walk off without you telling them to. So if they spook, I push them faster than they were going, but in a circle where I got control. So I'm always working on control through that circle. Those circles are going to be the magic for everything, guys. And that's why I say a lot of times, if you're riding your horse and you have a problem on your horse that you don't know what to do, I can tell you one thing you haven't done is enough circles. So we'll just leave it at that. Or you're not doing the circles right? You're not doing them correctly. So I found a spot. He doesn't want to come on this side of the round pin, because the skid steer's there with the cameraman up in the top there. So I found a boundary where he don't want to go any closer. I'm staying on that right rein for a bit here, and I just keep circling him and making sure he's soft, because if he starts getting heavy in my rein right there, that trumps direction. Right, I'm working on two things right here. I'm working on trying to get him to come to this side of the round pin towards us, but I'm also not going to let him get heavy in the halter and me not fix it. So the softness trumps no matter what lesson you're in, or what piece of that lesson you're in. So whatever any other maneuver you're on. If I'm trying to go in straight lines or on the circle or anything, if he gets heavy, I need to stay in the circles till he gets soft. And that's what I'm doing right here. Is he just got heavy. So, and then he's kind of taking it away without me asking. So I need to make sure there. Now he's starting to get soft. I need to make sure that he's soft before I go back and start addressing that, that stay on the rail thing, because that. And it's not really necessarily, it becomes stay on the rail, but I'm just asking him to come further towards the camera than he has been, right? And I'm just going to keep going in them circles until he gets there. Because now he understands already that he has to, if he gets heavy, I'm going to keep circling him till he's light, and then but he's going to learn also he has to go where I suggest he goes, or he's going to have to keep circling. And he's in runaway mode. Like when I let him go, he still takes off like that. So I'm still working on that. I'm kind of sending him off that leg. And that's why this all has to be in real time, guys, because there's a lot of things that I'm working on right now that's going to be so beneficial for him moving forward in his life. Things that you do not want to let slide just because it's the first ride. I find most people create the biggest problem for themselves by not having a really clear set boundaries of what that horse is allowed and not allowed when he's on the first ride. I find when you've only got a couple of when you've only on the first ride, or they've only got a couple rides on them, it's almost like they have a license to steal, right? So they show all that evasion, and it comes from a lot of different reasons, I find, but people don't think they have the mental capacity to understand, which is totally BS. It's too much for their brain, or they don't want to add the pressure, or they think they're just going to solve the problem later, which they will solve it later, but it just takes so much longer. Like, I want the first ride to be the foundation that sets him up for life. This is how grandma's going to correct him for any undesirable behavior, or my grandkids, when he's 10, 15 years old down the line. Because if you're not building them with the maintenance program in mind, then it's what happens is usually they'll send him to a different trainer, and he'll put a whole new bag of tricks on him, which works for a little while, but then he comes undone again. So look at the ground. That's what I'm paying attention to now, right where his front feet are. Keep your eye on that spot, because that's where he's not going to go any further. He kind of reached that spot, and I circle him and send him, and he takes one step closer so I can stay mundane. I just circle him and send him, and then he starts getting worse, right? There, see, he got worse. And so I keep asking him to go. See, he didn't get any better, so I'm starting to add a little bit more energy to send him up there, just a little bit. And then he gets worse again, so now I'm going to send a little bit more energy. So you can see what I mean by a little more energy. And then, there we go. Now then he makes some headway. There we go. There we go. And then I slow right down again, and just circle and go again, and you'll see him flat say no here. Right there. So when he got no, he said, no, I'm not going, and that'll just be his comfort level, right? He reached his comfort to that fear. So when he tightened up and spooked, then I just push him into a trot for him saying no. And I just keep, there you go. See, I have to have big releases. This is the tricky part, guys. You got to watch my right hand. Like, when he gets soft, I really give him big releases. So when I pull that hip, I really give him big releases of that hand to stop him from getting heavy. And now he just kind of locks up, so I got to tap him through that. So that's that evasion again, fight and flight, and do the opposite, right? So he tried fleeing, and then that put him into a circle. So he's trying that again, and then he's trying to muscle through my hand. He's trying to bull through that restraint pressure. So that's why I'm pulling and tapping that hip and let him go. And then I kind of pull and let him go again. Because what's happening here is he's starting to get heavier and heavier, right? He has a moment there when he tries, and then he gets heavier. And as soon as he starts getting heavier, I abort going up towards the skid steer, and I just work on softness, because you have to. Like, it has to trump, or otherwise you're just going to get him heavier and heavier, and then he's going to start pulling through you more times, and the problem gets worse. And I see it quite often in this exercise when we're at live clinics and stuff, when people start going across the rail. They want to go in a straight line from one side of the rail to the other with just one rein. And we end up in a habit and a pattern of just circling them one direction, I'm letting them go. Circle them one direction, letting them go. And the horse, he kind of gets tired of that. If the energy gets mundane, it's hard to read. So he just gets tired of doing circles, because he don't realize there's a reason and an end game to them circles. So he starts getting tight. And then we turn him, and he's tight, and we let him go in the direction we want, because direction becomes our goal and not softness. So he's getting heavier and heavier. So, and you can see him really fight me. So I'm just going right back to making sure I can get that hip, because if I can't get his hip, I know I can't get the direction. But if I can keep him soft through the hips, I can talk him through it, and then when he's done, I can go back and work on the direction. Like, because this lesson's not going to be done today until I get him to go by that skid steer, right? But if he gets too tight in the process, I'm not going to get him by that skid steer. Okay, so I hope I'm not talking too much and that's all making sense, because so So that's all I'm doing right now. You can see the big release. Like, look how much I give my hand back. Like, I'm really throwing my hand because I have to quickly create that release. You know, and it's if you release slow, he just pulls his head back when you release, and it doesn't create a break of contact. See how I really throw that rope out there? You have to break that connection to his nose, guys, or it's not a release. You know, just because you stop pulling didn't mean it was a release, because he took his head back and maintained the same amount of contact on his nose. You have to be slow with your pull and fast with your release. And then sometimes, see, I'm faster with my pull, and then really there. See, I'm really creating that release again, because he's pulling it away right there, and that's giving me that opportunity to say, no, stay there. No, see how I got faster with my hand? You got to stay there. And then once he stays for 4 seconds, and I turn him loose, and I let him have a break, and I'm going to switch sides and go on the other side now, because I've been working on that one side long enough that he's getting kind of tired, and that's his bad side. So I'm going to go to his good side, or which I think might be his good side, but it turns out to be his worst side. But anyway, it's going to be an opportunity to balance him out. So we just give him a break, and now they turn the camera back on, and I'm just going to throw it on the other side and work the other side now with the same thing in mind. I got to make sure that he's soft. Oh, see a little bit of root right there? So I asked for movement, because that little bit of a root in his nose was the timing when I started asking him to go. And I just moved around on my saddle a little bit just to check how tight my saddle was, because that's on my mind right here now too. Because he's by no means out of the woods here yet, guys. He's still pretty sketchy in what he's doing. That's why I'm not going to quit on him. I need to get through this battle get through the skid steer issue, and that's going to change him for life, right? And I hope you understand the power of that. That's why I talked about, not scooting around little issues like that. You only got to cover one, but you got to cover it, right? You don't have to fix every little thing he does, but there, see how he bolted off? That's the worst side. So I turned it up and tapped him a little harder, and see, I'm pulling on him harder. That was a restraint pull, so I need to have a restraint win. And I have done lots of restraint pulls from the ground, guys. So it's not new to him. But because I have done them from the ground is the only reason I'm able to have some success up here on his back. Is that when you're just in a halter and they want to toughen up like that, like if you're not doing things right, they'll not only pull through you, that run he'll take off just bolting around the arena. So you can see how he's getting tight, and I'm driving him. Like I'm sending him up there. I'm not backing off. If he wants to go up there, I need to get him into that emotion that I can desensitize him while he's in that emotion. Okay, and that goes back to our teaching him how to handle fear, right? There's no reason for him to be this afraid right here, because I'm not forcing him towards that skid steer. All I can do is circle him, but he's using fear as a way to get out of that control, right? Because he's had enough of those wins in his life that, and what happens is when he gets, there'll be some pressure on him when he's a baby, when he's being halter broke or whatever, because we have a different perception of how we handle them when they're babies than when we start riding them and training on them. So what we put into these horses, that is the contamination I talk about, is when he starts getting afraid of something, then we back off, right? If we got some pressure on him and he starts getting afraid, we back off and we pet him and we console him and tell him, it's okay, bud, it's okay. We want to calm him down, because we don't want him to get jazzed up, because we don't want to blow his mind. We don't want to scare him. So we calm him down, and there lies the issue that I'm dealing with right here. And it don't have to be very much. I've seen very quickly and easily horses get turned around just from the owner coming working them one day. Like I've got a horse, like a tough horse, through some issues. The owner comes and works with them one day, and I'm talking through some stuff, and they just reward them for a little bit of fear like that one time, and they go backwards the next day. Like the next day when I'm riding them, they've gone backwards again from that. So that's how I'm always collecting data and seeing a deal, and that's why we're more into teaching than just training, because it's to just put all these buttons on them and get these horses through all their issues, and they go home and it comes right back out. And it's frustrating for the horse. Oh, now I got him closer through there. See, this side, I just had to have Aiden come in, and for two reasons. I had him come in and tighten my cinch. I didn't want to get off. I didn't want to abort what I was doing. And I had him grab a lunge whip and be in there in case this guy decides to bolt. Aiden can turn him back and have control of him, because he already knows we have complete control of him at Liberty. And just Aiden being in there seemed to change him quite a bit, just because he knows Aiden's got control from the ground. I'm just going to circle again. So yeah, what he does in this real time, it gives me, lots of time to talk about all those things I've been talking about, guys, because it's really hard to get the psychology down of doing what we're doing. So many people can't understand why the lessons that we're doing is so effective. And I've always said my whole life, it's your horse can be the only one to teach you that. Like, I can tell you, but it never lands. It doesn't ever seem to land with anybody, but their horse will sure show them the difference. So I've got the trot now. I've even got the lope on him a little bit. So he's good that way. So he's better this way in some ways, but that restraint pull was stronger on that side. And so now I'm just using that rope as a little more desensitizing. I got my stick on that side, but I can tap him on the other side. Just rope management. Then as soon as I get him up into a lope, as soon as you can get him up into a lope, you can feel way more comfortable. Like, a lot of times I find people never want to lope their horse, so they trot them for weeks and weeks, and then they finally got the day they're going to lope their horse and wonder why he bucks and runs off and does all kinds of stuff. It's because you rode him long enough to create some resentment in there that you didn't realize you were doing, and then speed will bring that resentment out, right? So as soon as you go into a lope, that's when he throws all them fits. But if you lope him from day one and you teach him day one, you got that control. And don't get me wrong, you can't always lope him on day one. That depends on your environment that you're in and the surroundings, and how safe it is. But my point is, you don't want to go very long before you lope them, right? If you don't have the right environment today, you can get some stuff done, but tomorrow or the next day, you better be thinking about loping him, or it's you just got to go through it all again, right? Everything I'm going through right now is preparing him for the apprentice riders to be able to get on him and move him forward. I just wanted to make sure he wasn't going to have a come apart at the lope, and he didn't want to bolt off. So now I've got him on a loose rein, and he's walking. He's a little bit tight right there, and there we go. So I just kind of pulled through that a little bit. There we go. That was a good shot of that. And then he stays off the contact. So I'm never gonna miss an opportunity to not pull through that restraint pressure, but I had to learn how to do that. And I've had a lot of people go backwards in their horsemanship by trying to pull through that restraint pressure too quick, too early, because you have to develop the hands to do that, guys. It's not going to come overnight, but I do talk about it because there's some of you guys watching this video only want a safe horse to go on a trail ride. Some of you are trainers that are going to run into multiple horses like this that are on a different level. So I'm trying to talk to everybody here, but as a rule, if this is too deep for you, then it's just your trainer that needs to understand this. You can see that I'm still using that tap, and he's still flinching, so I want to use lots of that. So that's when I finally switched, and I'm going to go back to the left side, or sorry, his right side. Give him a little bit of a break. And I could have sped this up, but you know what, guys, we're going to be over 25 minutes anyway, so there's no sense speeding up. I sped up the beginning of it, and that's all I felt that I could really speed up, just because it's so important to see the rest time as well when I kind of give him a break, because he made a conscious decision to go through that. And what's really cool is when I circle him, like, because I couldn't get him past that spot before, right? So, and this is kind of Now look how he comes right over there. So there's that, the wheelbarrow's there, so he just gets closer and closer. See, when he gives it up, I didn't have to go back and teach that spot where he was afraid, right? So that shows me that the fear factor was not genuine. It was there, and it was just enough to trigger him, but the resisting the control was the number one factor, guys. And I hope you can see that. I hope this video makes that just as clear as can be. Look at him stay on the rail right there. Remember that spot? It was right there. See, that was the spot I couldn't get him past. And then send him, and he had to go to the other side and get through a restraint pull. Now look at him go right by that. I mean, that's just amazing to me that, and we're having a conversation about it, because it's very clear. That pattern right there showed exactly what I've been talking about, right? Everybody addresses the fear with back off, and it's not the fear. The fear was minute, but it triggered the control issue. And anytime a horse is afraid, he always tries to rush. That's what causes all the bolting. And if you go to some of the big English barns, and I don't want to step on anyone's toes here, but the bigger and the fancier the English barns are, dressage or jumpers, the more them horses bolt, right? Because they manage pressure like that, right? They completely try to manage the environment, and they all spook and bolt for no reason. And it's so clear to me when you watch it happen. But again, it's an easy fix. But and I've tried to help some of the top trainers over there, but it falls on deaf ears. I fixed a lot of the problem horses right in front of them quickly, and it just don't make sense to them. It goes against too many years of one understanding and their perception. And well, first of all, they said, "Oh, you can't do it with these big warm bloods," and so I said, "Okay, let me on that son of a gun." But when you see, now I'm just going into a trot. But it's again, that's why we do what we do, is for the horse. Like, this guy's going to have so much better of a life because all a person has to know sending this horse forward is how to move his hips until he melts, right? Because melting him for softness is going to get him through all of his issues, right? Moving forward, you can see that's what I did. I aborted this because he got heavy, and I talked him through the softness, so he got soft about control, and now I'm able to lope him by that on loose rein. That's pretty darn cool. Pretty darn cool. And like I said, that the proof is in the pudding, right? This horse moved forward from this day, and all the apprentices could ride him, and I didn't put all the apprentices. Aiden rode him, and I had a couple others that could ride him, and then we sent him home, and the owner come down and spent a few days with me and rode him. So anyway, guys, we're going to wrap it up here. Hope that all helped.